Do you double dip? Do you double dip? But like, okay, hold on. I don't get this now because I thought this double dipping is when you just like, yeah, like you're eating fries and you keep dipping the fries back in the same container. But I was thinking of like when you're eating with a group of people and you know there's only one container of ketchup and you're all dipping your fries in the ketchup. Mostly when it's just me, only if it's my personal bowl of queso or salsa. I for me it depends who it is, I guess. I'll double dip with my family or like my friends, I don't care. With strangers, no. But if it's like my friends or family, I don't care personally. Depending like what it is, I guess. If I'm sharing, absolutely not. Welcome in, Spider. We're gonna learn if it's actually a bad idea to double dip. Alright, let's learn. Let's learn.
Should you double dip? The idea of someone plunging their spit-coated chip back into the communal guacamole sends shivers down many a spine. But here's the thing, is this really the ultimate party foul? Or have we been holding a dippy chip on our shoulder for absolutely no good reason? Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, the show that would dip its toe in just about anything. Except the dip.
Oh my god, no,
today,
please don't
we're
do that.
tackling a debate that has raged for decades. No, I'm not talking about whether you should dip your wings in ranch or blue cheese. That's
Yum.
obvious. It's ranch.
Bleh, blue
we're
cheese,
talking
no,
about
ranch,
the
yes.
legendary, the dreaded double dip. We've all seen that person at a party. They grab a chip, scoop some dip, take a bite, and then horror of
Okay. Okay, no. If I'm at a party, oh, I guess this is the other kind of double dipping. If I'm at a party and there is a dip sauce, yes, I like to double dip. However, if I'm at a party, I will more than likely try not to do that only because I know everyone will be like, "Ew." Okay. Now I understand what the double dipping means. Okay. Yeah, what I'll do is I will either try to not double dip, or if it's like a chip like this and I bite that side, I will turn the chip around and dip it on the other side that I did not bite.
horrors, they send that saliva-laced triangle right back into the communal bowl. Cue the gasps, cue the judgmental stares, cue the mental note to never invite them again. But here's the real question. Are they actually ruining everything? Or have we been blowing this way out of proportion? And I might get a lot of flack for this one, but I like to double dip. Don't look at me like that. What am I supposed to do? Take an insane amount of dip and eat my whole chip in one go, slicing the insides of my mouth like I just swallowed a razor blade? Or only get enough dip for half of it, leaving the other half dipless? No,
Yeah,
I double
exactly.
dip. Some of you may have had a visceral reaction to my confession, and that's okay. Double dipping has been a point of contention probably since dips were first invented back in ancient times. But the cultural war over this issue really heated up in the 90s thanks to the legendary sitcom Seinfeld.
What are you doing? What? Did you just double dip that chip? That's like putting your whole mouth right in the dip.
Since that moment, the
Oh my
debate
God.
has only intensified. Scientists, partygoers, even the Mythbusters have weighed in on the great double dip debacle. But what does the science actually say? Is it really a
But just bite that part of the chip and then turn the chip around and dip the part that you didn't bite back in. What, like, hello? It's
catastrophe
easy.
threatening to destroy social gatherings as we know them, or are those tiny droplets in the dip just crumbs compared to the bigger picture? I've combed through the data, and by the end of this episode, you will never look at a party spread the same way again. So grab your chips, spoiler theorists, as we dip once and twice into the friendship-ending question: how disgusting is double dipping? Before we can figure out how bad double dipping truly is, we need to understand how common it actually is. Because sure, you might might be thinking, oh, I'd never do such an unspeakable act. But let's be real, not everyone shares that conviction. Heck, you probably don't. Come on, it's just you and me here. You can tell me in the comments below right after you click that subscribe button. Anyway, according to one study conducted by Sabra, yes, the hummus people, around 31% of people admitted to double dipping at a party before. That's nearly 1 in 3 guests. And here's the
Makes
kicker.
sense.
In that same study, double dipping was ranked as the
Food
number
crimes?
1 food crime, beating
Oh
out
my
culinary
gosh.
atrocities like eating pizza with utensils, ordering steak well done, or heaven forbid, putting ketchup on pasta. Ugh.
No,
By the way, want to
no,
avoid
not
the
ketchup
double
on
dippers?
pasta.
Steer clear of Texas, New York, and Washington State. Those were the top 3 states for double dip offenses, with over half of the people who responded admitting they've done the deed. Instead, aim for Virginia or North Dakota, where less than 1 in 5 owned up to it. Way to go, Virginia. ND, stay classy. But prevalence is only part of the story. The bigger question
now I
is,
want-
how gross is it
now I
really?
want Tostitos.
Well, first, let's talk about ourselves, shall we? Put our chips where our mouths are, if you will.
I will not!
We really need to start locking the doors around here. You may think you're a clean person, brush your teeth a few times a day, maybe even swish some mouthwash around, but your mouths are tiny petri dishes, breeding grounds for bacteria. According to the National Institute of Health, you can have up to 700 different species of microorganisms hanging around in your mouth at any given moment. Most of these bacteria are harmless, or even helpful, clearing away bad bacteria, aiding digestion, and freshening up your breath. But some bacteria, like Streptococcus mutans, are less friendly. They're the main culprits behind tooth decay and cavities, feeding on leftover food particles and hiding in the crevices of your teeth. That's not even counting the bacteria and viruses your mouth picks up when you're sick, like when you get the flu, rhinovirus, aka the common cold, pneumonia, strep throat, and of course, COVID-19, just to name a few. But whether those germs are beneficial or not, you definitely want to make sure other people's microbes stay firmly in their pie holes, for the most part. So the
just
question
swimming
is, when
around
you
in
double
there.
dip, do you actually transfer enough of these microbes into the communal salsa to make a difference? Well, whenever there's a scientific myth to test, you know our old pals the Mythbusters are on it. Back in 2009, Adam and Jamie decided to investigate whether double dipping really is as bad as sticking your entire mouth into the dip. And the answer? Yeah, double dipping did transfer a small amount of bacteria from the mouth into the dip, even after just one double dip. But here's the twist. It wasn't nearly as much as actually putting your mouth in the bowl. In other words, Timmy from Seinfeld wasn't entirely right, but that's only part of the picture. And as controversial as what I'm about to say may be, they did it wrong. See, the Mythbusters ran their experiments in a controlled lab setting, using sterile gelatin as the dip. But if you ever show up to a party of mine with sterile gelatin as the dip, you are getting justifiably tased. In the real world, dips come in all shapes.
Yeah, why not just set up a regular party platter and have a party so that it's like realistic, and then you just like test the dip or something.
Flavors, and crucially, acidities. So how do actual dips hold up? Well, around the same time that the episode came out, researchers at Clemson University published a study in the Journal of Food Safety that took things further. It was almost like a 3 experiments in 1 deal. The first of which showed, unsurprisingly, that double dipping increased bacteria levels after 3 and 6 dips. But it's their second and third experiments that I found super interesting. They found that when you change the pH, in other words, the acidity of the dip, the amount of bacteria transferred changes as well. More acidic dips saw less bacterial transfer. That means the tangier the dip, the fewer germs survive the journey from chip to bowl. But this was all done with simulated dip, just like the Mythbusters. When they brought in real dips like salsa, chocolate sauce, and cheese in for experiment 3, things changed again. They found that thicker sauces like cheese and chocolate, despite being less acidic, had significantly less bacterial transfer. Why? Because runny dips like salsa let mouth germs spread more easily, while thick, creamy dips trap bacteria at the surface. So if you're planning a party and you suspect some guests are among the 31% of confessed double dippers, you might want to roll out the thick, tangy sauces. Guacamole, sour cream, ranch, labneh if you want to be really awesome. But all hope isn't lost for those of you who are big salsa lovers, especially if you're planning on being at whatever event you're chipping and dipping at for a long time. Because the study also found that while liquid sauces had more bacteria transfer than the thicker ones at first, over a longer period of time, the acids in them actually caused lower bacterial levels than the thick ones over the same period of time. In other words, it took longer for the bacteria in the chocolate and cheese sauces to really get in there, but once they did, it was an all-you-can-eat bacteria buffet. Whereas the acidic salsas took a bit of time to kill bacteria, but they eventually did. So if you're planning to bust out some salsa by the pool or at the beach for a few hours, it'll be better than some queso. But I should highlight the fact that I said better, because it'll still have a good amount of bacteria. So the science is pretty clear. Yes, your mouth is filled with germs. And yes, double dipping adds some of those germs to the communal bowl. But should you be hovering by the snack table, vigilantly guarding the guac from rogue double dippers and tackling your elderly aunt to the floor because she dared take a bite out of a tortilla chip and go back for seconds? Here's the kicker. Now, remember the Mythbusters experiment? They actually had to run their test twice because the first attempt was so contaminated it skewed the results. There was so much bacteria already on the chips and dip that the Petri dishes looked like a Jackson Pollock painting before they even got started. To get clear data, they had to start over with sterilized chips and dip. And even then, the bacteria transfer was minimal. Even comparing the contaminated chips and dip to the one where they put their whole mouth on it, it's night and day. Plus, as I mentioned, most of the bacteria in our mouths are completely safe. So while it's gross, you're unlikely to be seriously affected by a little bite backwash. In fact, forget the dip. At that little party, there's already so much bacteria and viruses flying around from all the other things at that shindig that the bacteria...
The dip is like the least of your worries.
The dip you got on your chip is probably insignificant by comparison. Science has shown that getting any group of people together is a big incubator for bacteria. We're talking shaking hands, blowing out birthday candles, beer pong, sharing drinks, plus all the surfaces.
And it really only matters, I imagine, if someone is sick and they go double dip.
You touch. So are we in the clear? What should we be worried about then? It's not the double dippers you need to fear, it's the secret snifflers. Need more proof? The Mythbusters also ran a blacklight test at a party using a rigged nose to dispense a special dye invisible to the naked eye. By the end of the night, the fake snot was everywhere on people, furniture, food, drinks. It's a reminder that germs at parties don't just stick to the
Rose, I'm gonna puke. No. No. Oh my god, that is so nasty. That is so nasty.
Table. They're a part of the whole experience. And when it comes to the dips, while most of the bacteria in our mouths are safe, like I mentioned, that's not the case when you're sick. Those bad bacteria are bad news. But double dipping won't necessarily make it any worse than just existing in that space. So should you go full George Costanza and double dip like there's no tomorrow? Well, maybe don't be me, that person. It's still a bit rude, and it's definitely off-putting to most people. But in terms of actual health risks, 1 or 2 accidental double dips at a party probably aren't gonna hurt you. At the end of the day, food safety is about the big picture. And the reality is we're constantly surrounded by bacteria and viruses. It's not about eliminating every single germ, it's about managing the risks that actually matter. So the next time you're at a party, go ahead and enjoy that spinach artichoke dip. And if you dip in twice, it'll be our little secret. And if you are sick, definitely don't double dip. Don't dip at all unless you dip to depart. But hey,
don't go to a party.
A theory. A food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, talking about bacteria, make sure to click the link on the screen now to see me cook an egg on the sidewalk and eat some road bacon. And as
easy solution. You dip the chip, bite it, turn it around to the part that you didn't bite, and dip that part. I feel like that would be, like, that should be common sense. What the hell? Or the better part is to just like provide the dip. But then everyone, instead of dipping it into the bowl, there's a spoon, so you put the dip on your plate. That's what I've most commonly seen nowadays. Is they just kind of put the jar of the dip there with a spoon, and you put some dip on your plate. You don't dip it in the actual bowl.